Tonight, I'm going to only focus on remote teaching and the tools that you can use for remote teaching, and some of the interesting things you can do now with to-dos. And we're going to look at the display boards and the blogs. We're going to look at customizing work and setting customized work as to-dos. I know that this has been covered in previous sessions before, so if you've been in training before that we've customized to-dos, please just bear with me for a little bit, because there are some new features when it comes to setting those to-dos that we'll cover. Then we're going to have a quick look at Serial Mash that has had a nice update. Also, we're looking at Serial Mash in remote learning because it's going to be much easier than sending books home with your kids. And we'll look at the activities that go along with Serial Mash. And then I'm going to just briefly look at two of my favorite maths games to be used remotely and some marking, some marking of the work that you've set. We will quickly go into teachers, just so you can see what this looks like in New Purple Mash. We've got our planning tab, the CAPS curriculum tab, other curriculums, and professional development. And we'll end off the evening looking at how parents can get into the parent portal and see what their kids are meant to be doing or have done on Purple Mash. Inside the planning tool, we will have a look just now at the computing scheme of work, grammar resources, and spelling resources. These are hidden from all of the learners in the school. So if you wanted to use our grammar and spelling resources as tests, they will never be able to see them before you set them as tasks. So we'll go into that in a bit. Then our CAPS curriculum, if you are by any chance a grade 7 teacher, you'd be pleased to know that we've now added the CAPS curriculum mapping for grade 7, and all of the subjects, or most of the subjects in grade 7, all have associated content or relevant content for what you'll be teaching in grade 7. So there's a lot of projects that you can now deal with. And if we look at something like history and geography, we do have all of the local content that you need to teach there as well. Right. I mentioned that we're going to look at display boards, so we're going to look at sharing when we look at that. When it comes to marking work, we'll look at the data tab. Now I'm going to go straight into work, and this is where I'm actually going to start with what I want to show you tonight. So I'm showing you this as if none of you have ever seen the New Purple Mash before, so I hope this is going to be helpful for you. You will notice that the two major changes that have happened on the new version is in the work area and the to-do area. You used to have to, when you were looking at setting a piece of work or marking work, you used to have to choose it, and then there was a range of options on the top of the screen where you would choose what to do with that work. Now it's all embedded in the piece of work. So if you click on the 3 dots inside the piece of work, there are the options of what you can actually do with the work that has been handed in or work that you've saved yourself. It's just right there. If you want to look at multiple pieces of work, you can now just look at multiple pieces of work by using the 3 dots on the right hand side, and you'll have the same options over there. Right. Now, one of the very cool things that we did add at the end of last year that has become a lot more useful recently is that you can add file extensions for any kind of work. So you don't only have to use the work that you've created or saved from Purple Mash itself. You can now, as you see, you can upload PDF documents, you can upload MP4 videos, you can upload Word documents, Excel spreadsheets, PowerPoints, basically anything that you already have that you've created or saved or kind of got together over the years. You don't have to now get rid of any of that work. If you want to move on to Purple Mash, you can now incorporate it into your Purple Mash work. And anything that you upload can now also be set as a to-do. And when it comes to things like Word documents, Excel spreadsheets, and so on, those to-dos, the documents need to be downloaded and then edited and then re-uploaded into the program by the learners. But one of the examples I'm going to use now is a PDF document. And the reason I'm going to use PDF is because we've just recently launched our PDF annotator. So the PDF annotator is an amazing way to now deal with PDF worksheets that you might have that you want to share out with your kids. And these PDFs can now be annotated and added to on the Purple Mash program without having to take them offline. So you are going to just use this button on the right-hand side on top to upload work, and you can upload anything you want, like I've just said to you. And once the work has been uploaded, like this PDF quiz test that I've gotten, I'm going to directly from this piece of work, I'm going to set this as a to-do. So you just click set to do, and they will bring up your dialog box to set the to-do. Right. So I'm just going to mute someone. Okay. So when you're setting the to-do now, you'll notice that there are some changes in the to-do dialog box. So you've got your description for what you want your learners to do. You can now, there's now there's a note here, which wasn't there before. You can now add hyperlinks, and you can add video content from YouTube. So if you go onto YouTube and get the embedded code for the video, you can add it directly into your to-do. That will open up inside the to-dos area of Purple Mash. So if you want your learners to watch a video, they don't have to leave our platform to go somewhere else. They can do everything safely inside the Purple Mash platform. So that's what you would do in your description box. You can add links to external websites. You can add all sorts of things into the description, and we'll make a nice example of this now. So I'm going to take this test, which is a PDF document, and I'm going to add in the description, I'm going to find a video here off of YouTube. I know that the test that I'm doing is on something that's not the solar system, but for the sake of this example, I'm just going to put in this video. You'll go to YouTube and choose the sharing button, click on share, and then use the embedded code from YouTube. It's as easy as just copying, cutting this code and putting it back into Purple Mash right here. Right, now when this to-do shows up, as you'll see in a few minutes, it will actually show the video inside the to-do. Now you can also go and add audio instructions, which has been a feature for probably more than 2 years now. It's a really nice feature. Again, just going on about it because with remote learning and remote teaching, it's nice to engage with your kids, you know, with them hearing your voice, and when they reply to your to-dos, they can also record their voice, and it makes things a lot more real and feels a lot closer. Now, we can also add, in the new version of to-dos, we can add supporting documents. So with supporting documents, this will be anything that doesn't need to be assessed. So it's a non-assessable task, and it's just documents for your kids to read. So if you've created something like a PowerPoint presentation, or you've got a PDF document that you only want them to read and not edit or anything like that, you would add it as a supporting document. All right. I'm going to show you a little bit later on how to add supporting documents on their own, but just while I'm here, you can know that if you add only a supporting document not attached to a task, it just becomes an announcement. And the announcement, when it gets displayed on the learner's profile, will just have a box next to it that says, I have read this, and they click, I've read this, and you get notified that they've read the work that you've sent home for them to read. Okay, moving on to the next part of to-dos. You will see, as before, it'll show you who set the work. You can add objectives from the CAPS curriculum. We're not going to get into that now, but if you are interested in that, please ask me later on. And you can add tags. Tags are very helpful for when you have multiple to-dos and you want your learners to search through the to-dos to find specific work. Okay, then we'll go to our next box, which is our standard set date and hand-in date. So I'm going to set the date for today to be done by tomorrow. And then onto the next screen, which is now something different that you'll find in the to-dos dialog. And that will be letting the pupils download the PDF and then upload the work that they've completed, or launch in the PDF annotator, which is what I'm excited to show you right now. So I'm going to choose launch in PDF annotator and just go next and assign to my class. Again, I do understand that a lot of you know how this whole to-do process works, but I'm hoping that you'll pick up some things that you haven't seen before as I go through the process again. So now that work has been set for my grade 4 class, and in a few minutes I'm going to go and impersonate a user, but I'm going to create some extra work for them as I go through some of the things on my list here to show you. I'm assuming there's no questions so far. If you do have a question, please raise your hand or type something in the chat. Okay. Now we are going to look at the to-dos folder. So now when I go to to-dos, just mute one person. Right, now when I go into the to-dos, you'll notice that any video that I added from YouTube in my to-do will play inside the to-do without having to leave Purple Mash. In some of these to-dos that I've set here, this Introduction to Purple Mash MP4 I added as a supporting document, so it's not accessible, just there for our learners to look at. And if I go down, this will be the quiz that I've just set. So I'm still logged in as a teacher, so I can edit any of this. I can edit the due date. I can remove it. I can add links in here at the moment if I'd like to. And then when my kids have handed in the work, I can click on View Folder to see all of the work that's been handed in, which we'll get to in a minute. Now, inside the to-dos, if you haven't used New Purple Mash yet, you'll notice that in our old version, all the to-dos were on one page. So we had the done to-dos in green at the bottom of the screen, the ones that needed to be done at the top of the screen. It was a little bit uncomfortable to use, if I can say that. Now we have two folders. We've got a folder for things that need to be done and things that have been completed. So as you complete tasks, they'll move to the done folder. When they're in the done folder, you can close this work and file it into each individual pupil's folder. We're going to do that once some work has been completed. Right, so if I go and click on this new button here that says New To Do, you can now create a to-do out of nothing. You don't have to have work that you've uploaded to Purple Mash yet. You don't have to have found work or edited work on the platform. You can just go and click on Task, and for Task, you can upload anything from your PC straight away, or you can add work that you've already saved into your My Work folder, just like I showed you when we're in the work section. It's just two different ways of pretty much doing the same thing, but starting with a new to-do just gives you a lot more freedom to basically make anything you want. What I mentioned earlier is that if you add a supporting document without any task, this is what I was talking about, you leave the task empty, you add a supporting document, and that goes out to your learners as an announcement rather than an accessible task or any task that you'd like them to do. So I'm going to now have a quick look at customizing work and setting customized work as to-dos. Here, there are many, many ways that you can customize work in Purple Mash. And obviously some of you that have used the program for a very long time know that you can create your own work by using the tools, and you can use to quiz, or you can use to publish, and you can use all of those kind of tools to make your own content. But the easiest way to create your own content is to edit content that already exists on the platform. So inside the topics area, there are about 15,000 projects inside here. So you would usually just go and find something that is quite similar to what you're doing in class, and you'll just edit it slightly and then set that as a to-do. For anyone that is teaching a second language, or if English is your second language, you can translate any of our projects into any language that you like. So I'm going to show you how to do that now. Right, so we can go into topics and choose something that we like. So these are obviously all topic folders. So inside these topic folders is a whole variety of different writing projects. Or we can go and just use the search function and search for something. So I'm going to search for space because it's on my mind now. And I'll go and find, you'll see there's a lot of PDF activities that you can print out. Sorry, that's another thing, just a quick side note, is that Purple Mash, if you're not used to the program, isn't only online content. We have thousands and thousands of printable resources, and any of the online resources that you can see here can also be printed as PDFs. So we'll have a quick look at that in a bit. So if I wanted to, for example, go and look at the Exploring Mars project. This is the first of a few ways I'm going to show you how to create your own content. You're going to open the project that you want to work on. and it's going to open as if the learner was opening the project. And this is just a simple project about write about one of the vehicles that has explored Mars. And you'll see you've got the clip art and the word bank. So I'm going to try not go into all of this that you already know. But what you can do now is if you want to change any of these sentence starters or think about sentences, you just need to click on the little graduation hat on the top right hand side. That will put you into teacher mode. Now, when you're in teacher mode, you can edit anything about this project. So you can say, I'm going to say Elon Musk exploring Mars, for an example. And you can go and change one of these sentence starters. I can change that title to say Elon Musk, and I'll change the text to ask, who is Elon, right? No one really knows. And then we can say Elon is. And that's going to be our sentence starter and our tooltip and everything in the edited version of the project. Now, again, if you are using this as a second language, I think it's a really nice idea to add a voice note. So if you just click on the sound button, you can record your voice. So if you wanted your learners to hear what the sentence sounded like in that second language or in that first language that's not English, you could say it out loud. Also, for your younger learners, it's nice to just have that that oral backup. So there we go. I'm just going to say OK. I can now also go into my pictures, which I'm sure most of you already know that all of our projects do come with pictures that relate to the topic. And you can click on Add to Gallery. So if I wanted to go, for example, and find a picture of Elon Musk, I could then upload that picture of Elon Musk into the gallery and set it as my task. So this is a really, really quick and easy way of creating your own content without going and starting it from scratch. All right. Once we've done that, we just exit teacher mode, and we'll go and save this project. So I'll save it into my own My Work folder. A nice little tip here is that if you are one of a few teachers that are teaching a specific grade and you are sharing content with each other, at the bottom, if we scroll down past My Work and past all your classes, you'll see there is now a staff folder, which is quite new. And you can add subfolders to that staff folder. So you can add your grade 1, grade 2, grade 3, or your English, math, science, whatever subfolders you want for whatever grades. You can add that there to share with other members of staff that want to use the same projects as you. So you're not doubling up on work, basically. So I'm just going to, for now, put this into my own My Work folder, and I'll call it Elon Musk. And I will just save that. And now that I've saved a copy of work that I have created, I will just go to this menu again and go Share. And when I click Share, I can set it as a to-do directly from this topic that I've just created. So I'm going to say Set to Do, and I'm going to call it Elon Musk Explores Mars. Okay, and let's say write about the mission. Okay, and then again, if I wanted to, I could add supporting documents. If I've got a newspaper article or something I found online about Elon Musk finding something on Mars, or a YouTube video, anything you want, you can add into that. So I'm going to now just click Next, say I've set the work, set it for today to be handed in tomorrow. Just so you know, when you do set it to be handed in on a different date, it will go further down the list of to-dos, because the to-dos do show up in the order of when they need to be done. Then I'll set it for all of my grade 4s. You can also, for those of you that might not know, set the work for individual people. So if you've got someone, if you hybrid teaching and you've got some people in class and some people at home, you can set it for the kids at home, or you can just set it for your whole class and set to do, and that's done. So that is one of the ways of customizing work that already exists on PickleMash. So I've saved this work. So I'm going to go and just exit here. I don't need to save again. And I've already set it as a to-do. So if I go to my to-dos now, you'll see that on my to-dos, should be here. Let me just refresh this. There we go. I've got here, there's my to-do that's due in 1 day, and that's a project on Elon Musk exploring Mars. Okay, I see the icon is still the same. We'll talk about that a little bit later. So that is a question that comes up quite a lot. So it's definitely on the cards. Cool. So now there's some more work that I've set. Now, a couple of other places I want to show you. I'm not going to show you everywhere that you can tweak work, but I think these are nice, important ones to have a look at. If we go into the teachers area again, like I said to you, our grammar and spelling resources are hidden from your learners. So the first time they'll ever see these resources is when you've set it for them as a to-do. So if I go into grammar, for example, and I want to go and find something that we're doing in grammar, so I will go and do verbs and tenses. You'll see that there are a few ready-made projects or quizzes that are here in verbs and tenses, and some PDF worksheets that you can print out. So again, not everything needs to be done online. You can print things out, you can create your own, all sorts of interesting ways of delivering content. So I'm going to go into ice cream tenses and open that. I'm just going to launch it. Again, you need to launch the project before you change it. Now you'll see I can just go and push play, but before I play, on the left-hand side here is that fancy little graduation hat that's going to put you into teacher mode. But even if you go and play the quiz, you can go straight into teacher mode. So you can go and say, here's the question, this is the sentence, rewrite in the present tense, and it's going to say, I want ice cream, senses to, I will want ice cream in the future tense. So you're making your own grammar quizzes like this. So you can change the wording, you can change the language, you can change anything you want to actually align with what you're teaching in class. It doesn't have to be, okay, well, we're doing tenses or we're doing verbs and nouns, but Purple Mash has the stuff that almost does what we do. It doesn't have to be like that at all. You can make it align exactly what you're doing in class. And then again, once you've changed any of the questions, you've gone through the whole quiz, you're just going to save it again. Once you've saved it, you are going to then set it as a to-do straight from the work here. I realize I keep saying set as a to-do straight away, but you don't have to set it as a to-do straight away. Obviously, you can just keep it in your My Work folder or in your staff folder for when you're ready to use it. So if you do have some downtime, don't laugh at me. I know you're teachers and you don't hardly ever have any downtime. But if you wanted to make some of the stuff in your own time, you can go and create a whole bank of resources and keep them there for when you're ready to set them as to-dos. And the really great thing about creating your bank of resources that are custom to your class is that they will sit on our server forever. So as long as you have your license for Purple Mash, you'll be able to access the resources that you've made. And if you wanted to, you could then print them as PDF worksheets, which I guess we'll get to a little bit later on. So that is how you change things like the grammar resources. The spelling resources work similarly to that, just going in and changing the words that you want to use as a spelling quiz. And then the last thing is any normal quizzes that are in Purple Mash. So if I just search here for quiz, and I go down and find, see there's lots of PDFs to get past here. So it's usually quite helpful if you refine your search a little bit more than this. But if I go to Climate Change Quiz 1 and I open that quiz, you'll see that, again, when I open it, this one, strangely enough, doesn't have the teacher mode button. But if you are logged in as a teacher and you click the stop button, it's going to make this into an editable version of this quiz. So you can change, again, anything that you want in here. And if you are doing English as a second language, or you want to change this into any other second language, I would suggest using this newish feature, which is using the microphone to record your voice over anything here. So you can record your voice over asking the question, calling out the answers, saying what's in the picture. Very helpful for your younger learners and also for second language, and also just for engaging with your kids when you're teaching remotely. Right, so this is what the quiz will look like in editable version. If you don't know what toQuiz looks like, you can create any kind of quiz like this. You can create multiple choice quizzes, you can create labeling quizzes, true, false, anything you want into quiz. It is a really, really awesome program to start using. And a nice thing here is when you are back at school and you want to maybe use these quizzes as printable worksheets, if you just go and click on print, yes, I am sure, it will generate a PDF for you to print out for your class. Obviously, we are looking at a climate change quiz here and what can we do to help our Earth, and I'm talking about printing PDFs. It's probably quite ironic, but if you wanted to print things out, you can create your own printable quizzes that will look something like this. All right, and that's just creating quizzes into quiz and then setting them directly, sorry, not setting them as to-dos, printing them as PDFs. And then if you wanted to really mix things up a little bit, you could save the PDF and then set it as a PDF quiz using the PDF annotator, which would then bring in a whole different set of skills when it comes to EdTech and learning online. You're going to start teaching kids on how to change fonts, how to use tools. So that is actually an interesting way of looking at it. If you would like to make something that is interactive and then make it into a PDF and then make it interactive again, that's quite fun. So that is how you would create your own content. All right, there's so many different ways of doing what I've just shown you now. And please just remember that anything that's in the topics area, there's all sorts of different types of projects. There's writing projects, there are postcards, there's leaflets, which we'll have a look at just now. There's quiz questions, there's spelling quizzes, there's grammar quizzes. Any of that stuff is editable and customizable to suit what you're teaching in your class at the time. So do have a look at that. And this is a good time for me to remind you that you do not have to wait until we do a webinar like this to ask us questions. We are always willing to help you. At the end of this, I'll put my email address, I'll put the info email address. Neil, Megan, you can talk to any of us and we will help you through anything here. And if you do have ideas on anything that might be missing from the topics area, you're welcome to tell us and we'll create it. Just like we've spent the last 2 weeks creating all the grade 7 work. All right, so I think that then covers how to customize work. So what I'm going to do before I move on to display boards, blog, serial mash, I'm going to go and show you how this work looks as a learner. So I'm going to go and impersonate a pupil. Any of you teachers can impersonate any learner that you are assigned to. So any class that you're assigned to, you can impersonate any of your own learners. But please remember, when you do impersonate a pupil, you become that person. So don't go into their work and answer any of the questions or do any of the to-dos, because you will be doing it on their behalf and then you'll be marking your own work in the long run. So a nice thing to do is either get your admin of Purple Mash or yourself. You can create a fake user in your Purple Mash account and you can test the work on your fake user. So now I'm impersonating Andrew Freeman, who is one of my grade 4 kids that I've set work for. And you'll see that Andrew obviously has his own background. We've removed Minimash from Andrew's portal. So when you are working with some older kids, you can remove early years. They can change their background. They can make it look a lot more grown up. It becomes very much like their own little portal to work in. And it's a much more exciting place to be while completing work that would usually, on paper, be quite tedious. So we will have a look. Obviously now, Andrew has now got 2 notifications. You'll see that the notifications are the work that we've set now, and he's got a quiz test that I've labeled Quiz Test Thursday, and then he's got the new to-do, which we created ourselves, which is Elon Musk Explores Mars. So I could go straight into the to-do from here, but if I go to my to-dos, open that, you'll see that the work that I've done will, like I said earlier, show in order of when it needs to be handed in. So we've got here A little bit further down the page, we've got the quiz test that we need to do, which is a PDF that can be annotated. And we've got the Elon Musk Explores Mars right about the mission. So as I said, if you've set a YouTube video to watch and they just click on play, it is watchable directly inside the to-do. So we don't want to be taking the kids outside of Purple Mash. This means that if you are limiting the places that your learners are finding resources and material, you can blacklist everything online and whitelist Purple Mash and the few other sites that you're using, which just makes the internet a much safer place for them to be. On that note, please do look in our teachers area. We have some amazing work on online safety. So there's a lot of projects that you can cover online safety there. Right, so I'm going to go and complete these two pieces of work just so you can see what it looks like. Starting with Elon Musk Explores Mars. And just so you can see, this is now the edited version that we've made. So it was really easy, right? I hope you saw. It was really easy to now go and edit this. If I had added any clip art or if I'd added any pictures, they would all be available here to be looked at. So if I'm now Andrew and I go and complete some of this work, right, and I can write in Elon Musk, I've written there, who is Elon? I click on it. Elon is a super rich guy. Yeah. Cool. So that's how we're going to get our work done. I'm then going to save the work that I've completed. And I'm going to go out of here. So it's now been saved. You'll notice that it never asks me where am I going to save the work, because any to-do that you create is going to save into a file that's automatically been made for that to-do, just making your life a whole lot easier. Being able to find the work that you've set really, really easily, and then from there you can file it into individual folders. So I'm going to say exit, and now you will notice that my Elon Musk work now says continue or hand in. So I can just say hand in because I've done what I need to do, and I can leave the teacher a note. I can leave the teacher a voice note and say thank you. We have seen some very, very nice notes sent to teachers. So if you do see anything that really stands out to you, please share it with us. It's always nice to see what your kids are doing. So I'm going to say hand in. Now you'll see in this new version of the to-dos, it's automatically going to be removed from my to-do and put into my done folder. So there it says it's done. It says I've left a note for the teacher when I handed it in, and I can just go and view the work that I've done. And I'm going to go back and do the same thing with the PDF that I've set as a task. So now, because the teacher set me a PDF to do online with the PDF annotator, this is where things get more interesting with PDFs. I go start, and I'm assuming that most of you haven't looked at the PDF annotator yet because it's very new. You'll see it's opened my PDF now inside Purple Mash. And now I've got some very basic tools that I can use on the left-hand side here to annotate this work that you've set me. So I'll choose a blue pen and I'll circle things, and I will just go and obviously the kids can choose whatever they want to use to annotate this PDF. They can write in it, they can highlight the work, they can do all sorts of things. So I'm just going to make some very simple annotations here. Please don't be marking me on the work that I'm doing because I know I'm getting it wrong. So I can just go and put in work, and I will just say, see if I get some things right or wrong. Not even looking at what's there on the side. So there we go. I've put in my answers on my PDF, and again I'm just going to click save and go and hand it in. Now, something I didn't show you that I did show to people earlier is that if you've set a quiz, one of the quizzes from 2Quiz or any pre-made quiz from Purple Mash as a to-do, as soon as you've completed that quiz, it automatically hands it in and assesses the work for you. So you don't have to go back here and click hand in. It does that for you automatically. Right, so there is what I've said to the teacher. Okay, So now I've completed some work, I've handed in the work, and again, for those of you that do to-dos all day, every day, please bear with me, and I hope you're learning some new things. I'm going to go back to being the teacher, and you'll see that the teacher now has some work that's been handed in. So I've got 3 notifications. And now if I go to click on the quiz, I've asked Neil to also do some of the work. He's impersonated another grade 4 user. So just for the sake of showing you how this works, you'll see it immediately tells you now in the to-dos who has actually handed in that work. So you can go and you don't have to wait or go into the work to see who's handed it in if you want to wait till more kids have handed it in. And then we can say go to, and this now opens the file that's been created for that work. So you're going to go and mark this work. So I'm going to click on mark. And you will see here is the annotated work that Andrew has handed in to me. I can now use my tools over here. I can choose a red pen if I like, and I can mark things, and I can put scores in. I can put notes in, and I can say, check your spelling over here, and I can put scores. I can do all sorts of things as you would with a pen on paper that's been handed into you. So any work that you are now marking, any file corrections that you're putting onto the work, don't affect the original work at all. It just becomes an overlay of that work that will be handed back to the learner so that they can see what they've done right or wrong. And you can just put comments, and you can say, well done, give you 90% for that. And then I click Save File Corrections and Next. Because I have multiple kids' work that's been handed in, all I do is just click Next, and it's like flipping the pages of a book. It takes me to the next piece of work that I need to that I need to mark. Thank you, Neil, for putting Ring of Fire by Johnny Cash. Cool. So again, I can just do any marking on there and save it. Now, when I want to print a report on this, and I'm writing print report. Okay. So now I've marked all of the work in my class, and I want to now print a report of all the work that's been handed into me. I just select all the work. This is hopefully something new that I'm going to show some of you. You can just select all the work from that folder, click on the 3 dots, and click on report. And now you can either print an Excel or PDF report, and it will immediately tell you who hasn't attempted to do this work, so you don't have to try and figure it out yourself. And you click on PDF, create report, and there is a report that you can file on all of that work that you've just created. Let's have a look. There's the PDF report. Right, it'll tell you who didn't do it, who did do it, when they did it, the note that they left for you, the note that you left for them, and then any judgments and rewards that you've left for that user. So rewards, by the way, are just stickers that you send to your kids, and they're nice little stickers to keep in a sticker book. We can go and look at that just now. So once you've done it, this is something that I'm going to ask you all, please. If you are doing to-dos all the time, you will notice that the to-dos that you've completed will all show up in this to-dos file and will show up in your to-dos icon on the top of the screen. When you click on that, you'll see your to-dos. Some of you are not filing to-dos when you've finished doing them, and all you're doing is making your life more difficult, and we're trying to make it easier for you. So please, once everyone's handed in their work, just select the work and click on this little menu button over here and click Close to Do. Right. When you click Close to Do, it's not going to delete anything. Right. It's going to go, you're going to click OK, and it's now going to file that work into each of these learners' own folders. So if I go now into Pupils and I go down to Andrew, you'll see that he now has a folder of done to-dos, and this is when you do close the to-dos and you file them, they will all file into the learner's own folders, which is going to make it much easier for you to do reporting, finding work that they've done, and so on. I know sometimes the parents want to come to you and say, what has my child done in computers or online? You can just go to their done to-dos, you can click here, select all of it, and again you can print a report as we did before. So you can print a report of everything that Andrew's done in Purple Mash for a specific period of time, if you like. So now here's all of Andrew's work, and I can file this or I can share it with the parents, and it's all there nicely presented for you. So if you do these small little things that we've added in here, it's going to save you a lot of time and a lot of pain when it comes to creating reports for your kids. Okay, Jean, thanks for the question. So you want to know how to remove the early years icon from the home screen. So before I move on to my next point over here, I'm going to show you how to do that. So as you saw, Andrew does not have early years, and you're going to want to take that away for some of your kids. You're going to go into early years, which you'll now see on the new version isn't only Purple Mash, it's all other associated tools that can be used for preschool and early foundation phase. And you're going to go to Mini Mash settings. And in Mini Mash settings, you will choose the class that you want to look at. So you can say a grade 3, for example, and it's going to say here, show Mini Mash in early years, and you're going to change that to no. It's as easy as that. You're going to click then save, and now none of my grade 3s will see that early years button. It is really just as simple as that. I wish it was, no, I actually don't wish it was more complicated. I'm glad it's that easy. That's all I have to say about that. I hope that helps. You can also, for your preschoolers, change that to take them straight to Mini Mash. So you can say take straight to Mini Mash, change that to yes, and then for your very, very small kids, it will just take them directly to Mini Mash without even showing them Purple Mash on screen. That's how that's done. Cool. Now, the next things that I want to show you are display boards, blogs, serial mash, and maths games. All right, again, because I just need to remind mostly myself that we are only talking about remote learning now and try not to get distracted. We are going to go look at display boards. So this is something that I don't often bring up in training. So if you have done training with me before, we probably haven't covered this. And you need to go to your sharing icon on the top of the screen. And inside sharing, you will see that there is a display board tab, a shared blogs tab, and a global display boards tab. So we're going to now look at school display boards. And school display boards are exactly what they sound like. They are display boards like you would have in your classroom, like a pin board or something like that. And these boards are used to pin EdTech work or anything that is interactive or anything that you've made on Purple Mash. You can pin it to a display board where you can decide who sees what on the display boards. So if we wanted to go, for example, to create a display board for our grade 3 class, we would go to our display board settings on the right hand side, and it's going to open our display board settings, or the admin for display boards. Please remember, if you want to create display boards for your whole school, you need to be a school admin. But if you are an assigned teacher for a specific class, you can create display boards only for your own class. So these are all the display boards that I have at the moment. Most of them are hidden. And I'm going to go and click on new display board, and we're going to write the name. I'm going to call this grade 3, and then we can say all grade 3 work this year. Right. Now there are some extra little features here. I'm just going to put in a little icon just for now. So some of these features are very, very important. We're looking at online safety. So let me just have a quick. So Henriette, I don't know if I just answered your question or if that question came after what I was saying. Teachers, will all teachers have access to all the display boards? Teachers should have access to only their own classes' display boards. If Neil can confirm that, that would be cool. Yeah, but let me carry on here while I see Neil's busy typing. So I'm going to say Some of this information here you really need to pay attention to because of online safety. We're going to say hide information. So you can say hide pupil name or hide class name. This, I would say, is applicable if you are making these display boards visible to the public. So if these display boards are only accessible by the class that's using them, I wouldn't hide the pupil name and I wouldn't hide the class name because they can see which one of their peers have actually created the work. If you're going to make this visible to public, which means that you can get a link to add this display board to your school's website or to a Facebook page or share with your parents, I would then hide the pupil name so that you can't see who's created the work, but it's completely up to you. So I'm not going to make this visible to public. Only staff can push means that only staff can put stuff on the display boards. So I'm not going to say that now. If you don't tick this and you allow anyone to push work to the display board, the assigned teacher still needs to allow that work to be shown on the display board. So it's not just going to show up there because children are children and things might end up there that shouldn't be there. So staff always have to go and allow the work to be shown on the display board. Then I'm going to go and see who can see these boards, and I'll make it available only for my grade 3E class. And save, and that display board is now created. So anytime that I want to share something to a display board, any work that I've created, let me go into a tool. Well, let's say I'm going to go and find a nice story that I've made, and I'm going to share that with my class. I'm going to open my Little Red Riding Hood story. And because it's saved, excuse my slow internet, I'm just going to go here and click on share in this drop-down menu, click share, and I can now push it to a display board. So if I click on the share button, I can choose the display board that I want to share this work to. And obviously, if I was in grade 3, I wouldn't be able to see anything but the grade 3 display board. So you can go and share to the display board. You can also get an embedded link or QR code for the work that you've created, but we don't have to do that now. So I'm going to say here, because I'm a teacher, I'm going to say set as approved, because if your learners go and put work on here, you have to go into the display board and approve them. I'm just going to say set as approved because I'm already a teacher. I want it to show immediately. I'm going to say, okay, I'm going to share that. So now this work that I've done has now been shared on my class display board where all of my grade 3s will be able to see the work that I've pinned to the display board. So this is what the display board looks like. You'll see that it says that work that Mr. Williams has done. That's not me. James Williams actually made this. And if I click on that, it will then open the work just as a view-only file for my peers to have a look at the story that I've created, and they can't go and change my story. And you'll see here is my adventure story on Little Red Riding Hood that my classmates can go and read my story and do the interactive story that I've made. So that is a display board. And I think display boards when doing remote teaching and remote learning are very, very important so that we're still sharing work, we're still seeing what the rest of our class is doing, and we're not alone. Right, and then the next part is going to be blogs. I'm not going to go deep into blogs now because just looking at who's in this session, most of you have had quite extensive training on blogs. I just want to show you, for those of you that don't know where to find blogs, if we go into our tools area and I go to communication and sharing as tools, our second tool here is called ToBlog. And ToBlog looks quite similar to the display boards when we open it up as an admin. You have class blogs and you have pupil blogs. So class blogs are blogs that teachers can write. Class blogs are blogs that teachers can create for their whole class to view. So last year, in the first big lockdown, this was probably the most used tool in Purple Mash, at least from our schools, where teachers were using the class blogs to deliver their content and deliver their lessons to the kids. So there's no live video interaction, but you can upload your own videos into blogs, you can upload your own content. because of the massive updates that have happened in the to-dos, you can do most of that in to-dos now rather than using blogs. But the nice thing about using blogs is that you can add lots of different content to specific blogs. So if I'm going to my volcanoes blog, for example, and I go and view the blog, here is my blog on volcanoes. I've got different blog posts covering different areas of work. And in each blog post, you'll see that now the learners can go and write comments on the blog. So it becomes a lot more of an interactive place for them to be. They can comment on each other's comments. They just become a lot more involved in a class if this is how you want to set the work. And then anything that you set here can just be saved into shared folders for you to mark later on. So that is very, very briefly to blog. And for those of you that don't know anything about ToBlog, I'm more than happy to spend some time with you showing you how it works. It is an amazing blogging program, especially if you are getting your kids now to create their own blogs. So we have covered so far to-dos, how to upload external work, how to create or how to make PDFs editable with the PDF annotator. Sorry, not editable, but you're able to write on PDFs. We've spoken about supporting documents. We've spoken about adding YouTube videos onto to-dos. We've spoken briefly about customizing work. I've told you about display boards, and I've told you about blogs. I hope that you all recognize those things that I've covered now. And yes, again, we've spoken about marking work, and please adding your voices, my own little note, and customizing work. Two more things I wanted to show you on customizing work before I go on to Serial Mash is my two favorite maths games that you can use for remote learning. So I'm going to go into games, and those of you that have played around here will know what most of these games are. Inside the Text Toolkit grammar games, all of these grammar games can be customized and edited to your needs, the same way that I showed you the stuff in the teachers area by clicking on that little teacher mode icon of the hat. But now I'm going to look at two specific maths games. So I'm going to show you two race, and I'm going to show you multiplication. So let's start with multiplication because it's a little bit less fun because I'm not very good at maths. So if I go now and set a multiplication table check as a to-do, I'm just going to use the default description that's here. You will see that when I go past the set date, it's going to ask me specifically what I want to do with this. So when I was setting the PDF as a to-do, remember that there was this extra dialog box that said, do I want to set this work with a PDF annotator or set it as a downloadable PDF? It's a similar kind of thing that's happening here with multiplication. So I'm asking you, when you are setting things as to-dos, instead of just clicking next, next, next all the time, please do look out for these extra little dialog boxes that pop up. This one here will ask me what game mode I want to set here. So I'm going to change game mode from assessment to custom. And when I change it to custom, I can create the times table quizzes that I want to set for my class, specific to what I'm actually teaching in class at the moment. So I, for example, am doing only the 10 times table. I only want to set them a multiplication task that covers the 10 times table. I don't want to go and set all sorts of nonsense for my kids. So I'm going to go here. Neil, when you see this pop up, please impersonate a user and do this work. So I'm going to go and set this work for my grade 4s. I will do it. Sorry, let me just go back and make it a really short assessment because we want to do only 2 questions. Let's say 3 questions. Okay, so I'm going to set this as a task for my grade 4s again. And I'm going to quickly show you this because I want to show you what the data looks like up here once this work has been done. So I'm going to go and impersonate Andrew again. Andrew. and then do the work that I've set. But there we go. So now I impersonate Andrew, and I see that there's multiplication quiz to be set. So now I've set him a multiplication quiz for only the 10 times table. And it's going to go directly into my test, and it's going to, you see, have 3 questions related only to the 10 times table. So now I'm going to mess this up a little bit. I'm only going to get a couple of things right. Not a couple, just one thing right. And you'll see there's my results. It says that question 1 and 2 were wrong, question 3 was right, and I can go out. And this work is now completed. You'll see that the more, when I refresh this, it'll go away. I can say hand in. And now, going back to being a teacher, I can go and not just look at what Andrew got right or wrong. This is the part that excites me the most, is that I can go into data and I can see my to-dos, multiplication, and I can see that Tato and Andrew have both done the work. And Andrew got 33%, as you know, I got 2 wrong, 1 right. And then if we go and look at the breakdown, we can actually see what our kids are getting wrong and what they're getting right. So the more multiplication they do, this whole map will fill up with nicely color-coded data on where they are in maths. It'll tell them the more they do, for example, 10 times 6, it will start showing, you know, sometimes they get it right, sometimes they get it wrong. They might get it right 33% of the time. And it's going to give you a really good indication of where they are in multiplication without having to guess and test all the time and go through reams of paper trying to figure out where they're right and wrong. And then you could go, for example, and say, if Andrew is really bad at the 6 times table, go back to multiplication and set only 6 times tables for Andrew. And if you are using a game like the Monster Multiplication, which I'm not going to go into now, but it's a fun multiplication game, it is intuitive enough to know what they're getting wrong and what they're getting right. So it'll start weeding out the questions that they're getting right all the time and pushing more of the questions that they're getting wrong. So as they play Monster Multiplication, if you do have kids struggling with multiplication, it's a brilliant game to play. But now the last game that I'm going to show you is to race, because when you are teaching remotely, which again is the reason why we're here, you will be able to create race rooms for them to play in, and they can play against each other even if they're all at home. So I'm going to create a new room, and you'll see I just click on create room. I can choose a topic for my race, which I can choose addition, subtraction, times tables, number bonds, anything I want. I'm going to go to number bonds and choose my question type. We'll call it bonds up to 10 if we're working with the little kids. Obviously, if you're working with older kids, you would go something like ordering and comparison or division. Just for the sake of me being terrible at maths, I'm going to go with this. And I'm going to choose my class grade 4, but this time I'm only going to choose 2 kids in the class. So I'm going to go down and see Tato, and I'm going to choose Andrew. Right. So Andrew and Tato are now invited to this race, and we can make it a rocket race, a snail race, a mermaid race. Let's just keep it as a rocket race. I'm going to go play now. Now that the room is open, you use whatever you're using for your teaching. If you're using Teams or Zoom or Google, you can go tell your kids, okay, now go to the room that I've created, and you'll see when the room is created. I can see that Neil, who's impersonating Tato, is now already here. So I can say we're both going, it's going to give Andrew 56 seconds to now join the race, if he hasn't joined yet. And because I'm a teacher, I can join the race, or I can just become a spectator. So I'm just going to click spectator, and you can watch your kids race in maths, which is quite fun. So I'm going to just, while I've got some time left, I'm going to change myself to let's go a nice little spaceship. And I'm just going to say I'm ready. And then hopefully Neil will be ready too. And then there's myself and Neil are now racing against each other. So as we get things right and wrong, you'll see that we are racing against each other around the moon. And Neil's going much faster than me because he doesn't have to talk and do maths at the same time. So this is just one of the race rooms that we can use. like I said, you've got all different themes that you can race in, and you are actually racing against a real person. So it's myself and Neil. You can see he's racing ahead of me up here, and there will be a leaderboard at the end showing who's where in the race. Oh, there he goes. It's just lapped me. Yeah, so I'm just going to stop embarrassing myself and go out of 2Race. And I hope that you get what I'm trying to show you with 2Race here. I think it is an amazing way to get your kids to be in the same room, doing maths at the same time and having some fun when they are not together remotely. It's obviously also a really nice thing to do when you are all in class together. It can probably get quite rowdy. Now, if you wanted to set any of the 2Race games as a to-do, you would have to use the ready-made races that are here. So the 2Race is a live racing arena, and everyone would have to be online, but to set it as to-do, you just use one of the ready-made races. So I think, okay, yes, the last thing I'm going to show you before we end off now, I know it's getting quite late, and I really thank you for sticking with me this far. I hope this has been helpful so far. So the last thing I'm going to show you is our reading area. So obviously there's a lot in tools that we could go and have a look at. If I do think of anything very specific that can be used remotely better than you could maybe use it in class, I will send you all an email and let you know. There are some really nice things that you can use for remote teaching. The one thing that I actually didn't show you, but I probably should have, is 2Quiz. I did show you a pre-made quiz, but just so you know, if you're using the 2Quiz app that's in here, you can create any quiz that you want with any content. There's nothing that you need to work off of. And yeah, you can create your quizzes from scratch here with any content that you want. And then 2Write, which we haven't looked at now, is a collaborative writing document. So if you use something like Google Docs, same kind of thing, you open it up and you've got collaborative and non-collaborative mode for writing. So it can be used either as a sort of word pad or a collaborative writing document. So I'm not going to look at that now unless anyone wants to, but I think I'll just move on to reading. So the reason why I'm going to finish with reading is that I just know from experience that schools are struggling to send books home for kids in remote teaching times like this. So if you go into our reading area, if you haven't seen Serial Mash before, if you don't have a license for Serial Mash, let me know and we can help you out. We have about 200 books inside Serial Mash that you can set as tasks for your kids to read at home, and all of the books come with related activities. So if you haven't been into the reading area since the new version of Purple Mash, you'll notice that it's now not only Serial Mash. We also have a whole lot of related activities to do with reading. So we've got reading journals for your kids to write in, fact files on authors and poets. We have got book review projects. You can get your learners to create comic strips, do book reviews, do a blog post, a character analysis. There's all sorts of things that you can do in the reading area. But going up into Serial Mash, there's a couple of things that I want to show you. Let's just quickly go here. Serial Mash again. And I'm going to go into my emeralds. If you don't know Serial Mash, you've got diamonds, emeralds, and sapphires, and firebolts. These are different reading levels or reading ages. And here is the library of books for my emeralds reading age, which is usually ages 8, 9, and 10, about there. So if I go into one of my new books, which is My Family and Other Androids, you will see, if you're not familiar with Serial Mash, what we do is we separate the books by chapter so that we're not giving the learners the entire book at once. And every single chapter does have related activities. So you wouldn't have to go and create comprehension activities for your kids after you get them to read a book. We've got quizzes that can be assessed. We have got spelling, punctuation, and grammar quizzes, sentence sequencing, open-ended questions. These can all be set with a PDF annotator. And then we have a project to do with this chapter of the book, which is a writing project. And in all of our newer books, so if you are someone that has been using Serial Mash for a while, note that all of our newer books now have EdTech related activities to do with every chapter. So it's part of the comprehension. We're just bringing in the technology so that we are incorporating technology in what we're doing. If you know us well enough by now, you know we don't like to do technology and in-class learning separately. We like to integrate it nicely so that you are learning a subject while you're doing technology. So if I just had to have a look over here, this safe space route to safety is a coding exercise to do with the chapter that we're working on now. So if I had to click on that, it's going to open a coding activity using logo. And the logo coding activity will be getting the character from Meg's room to the hidden door using our logo code commands over here. So that's just a very brief example of how we like to do the integration. You'll see with chapter 2, we have an animation activity. If you know how to animate program, we'll be animating the storyline. Chapter 3, we'll be creating a 3D game following the storyline. Chapter 4, we'll be designing an Android using To Design and Make 3D modeling. Chapter 5 will be doing mind mapping, and chapter 6 will be a book review. So this is just a very brief introduction to what Serial Mash looks like and some of the related activities. And the major change that we've made in Serial Mash at the moment is just the layout of Serial Mash. If you haven't been into it for a while, you'll see it's very different. If I go to my settings, I can now change my font. So if you are, for example, teaching cursive, you can reinforce that now by changing the book into cursive. You can change the font size. You can change it to continuous scrolling if you're doing tablet work. You can also change the background of the book to make it a more contrasted background for kids that struggle. And the main change that's inside the new books is if I click on audio, I haven't shared my computer audio with you now, but if I had to click on this play button, there is an actor that reads the book out, and it will highlight the book as it goes along. So you won't be able to hear this, but I'm going to click there, and it will be saying, it will be reading this book out loud. So it's a really nice thing to set these as tasks for home learning, because you're not just leaving the learner with the book to read if you don't want to. You can switch on the audio, you can switch off the audio, and then they have all the related activities to go along with it. So as far as remote teaching, I haven't covered everything, but I hope that I've covered enough to help you in the next couple of weeks. And for those of you that have been using PiffleMash for a very long time, thank you very much for your support, and we are always here to help you. So if you do need any further help with anything that we're doing here, you can just email me, tim@twosimple.co.za. You can email Neil, you can email Megan, you can email info, or call us anytime. And you don't have to wait for a webinar to have this discussion with us. We can always do one-on-one training with you or any of your staff if you like.